The most sacks among rookies in the NFL so far this year. Drake Jackson, 3. Aiden Hutchinson, 3. Okay. All right. Those are good numbers. But let's dive a little deeper into these numbers, John. Let's go to Pro Football Focus.
Oh, my friends.
This is organized by total pressures by rookie defensive ends. Okay. For those of you listening, I'll read you the list. George Karlaftis, number 1, 17 pressures. Aiden Hutchinson, 15. Arnold Ebiketie, I can never say his name, from the Falcons. I think today's the first time I tried. Trayvon Walker, the Jags. Kayvon Thibodeau, they're tied with 12. Drake Jackson is 6th among rookie ends with 8 pressures. And Sam Williams is 7th. Sam Williams of Ole Miss. And the Cowboys has 7 pressures. Like, all right, well, that's a total number. But look at this column. If you're looking, the pass rush snaps, Drake Jackson's only got 85 of them. Karlaftis has 191 of them. Aiden Hutchinson has 170 of them. So let's go to percentage then. The percentage of pressures. And Drake Jackson is number 1. Again, he's got fewer snaps, 85 pass rush snaps. He's averaging 7% pressures. So that's number 1. Sam Williams 2, Kayvon 3, Jermaine Johnson 4. And I think what's interesting when you look at these numbers is what you're paying for this amount of pressure, right? Drake Jackson was the 61st pick in the draft. So he signed a 4-year, $6 million contract. Trayvon Walker was the number 1 pick, $37 million. Aiden Hutchinson was the number 2 pick, $38 million. Kayvon Thibodeau was the number 5 pick, $31 million. Even beyond those like top name brand guys, Jermaine Johnson, the 26th pick from Florida State for the Jets. Karlaftis, who's on the Chiefs, 30th pick from Purdue. The Falcons, Arnold Ebiketie, 38th pick. He was from Penn State, ahead of Drake. Sam Williams, 56th pick at Ole Miss. He was ahead of Drake Jackson. So Drake Jackson's played half as many snaps as Hutchinson and has half as many pressures and the same number of sacks for like a 1/6 of the cost.
Well, one thing that makes Drake a little unique is, and we talked about the reason he, fell to that spot, because usually I don't know much about Sam Williams' story, because I would lump him. I mean, him and Drake went within 4 picks of each other. I would say that's the best bang for your buck right now. Those 2 fucking guys.
Yeah.
Right. Now, Sam Williams is bigger than Drake Jackson, but I'll have to do some texting around, what was his deal coming out. I mean, Drake Jackson was viewed as a first-round pick going into his junior season. He's a first-round talent. He just changed his weight. The scheme changed. It got weird at USC, but no one ever disputed, him and Kayvon were talked about going into that final season as 2 blue-chip type guys, right? Now, Kayvon's team was really good. Kayvon's longer, but if you can be as productive as 3 guys that went in the top 5 of the draft at, let's face it, you could say they're equals, tackle, offensive tackle and pass rusher. I would give the slight edge to a pass rusher. I think if all things are equal, you take the pass rusher over the tackle. Now, depending on how your team's built, but if you're just starting from scratch, quarterback's clearly number 1. I think a large majority of teams would have pass rusher first. You're just more likely to get impact guys. There are only so many Trent Williams in the league. Now, maybe you could argue if you ever get the opportunity, you got to do it. But ultimately, my point is, in this draft, it was so fast and furious. And then, like you said, the money you have to pay the top guys. And Bosa falls under that too, right? He was the 2nd overall pick. He's made a shitload of cash.
I'd rather pay $38 million to the best pass rusher in the league. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying those guys are bad deals.
No. But your point is they're getting Drake Jackson at the level in which he's playing. I think the last couple of weeks he's kind of coming on. It feels like you're noticing him a lot more. He's getting more and more comfortable. Sam Williams, clearly. I mean, I think him and Drake Jackson and Sam Williams both benefit from being just on high-level defenses. So it's you can do specific things, rush the passer, get after it. That really helps. Ultimately, Nick Bosa is asked to do it all. Right. When he's on the field, right? Play the run, be consistent. And I would say the other 3 guys drafted in the top 5 to be, all-around players. Kayvon missed a couple weeks, right, because of the injury on that. I guess it was on that cut block, right, in the preseason. Mm-hmm. But I got to give him credit. He looks better than I thought he would look.
He had the game. What do you have? A game-winning strip sack?
It was pass block to Rodgers.
Oh, okay.
I haven't watched that much Lions football, but if the 49ers are getting high level play out of Drake Jackson, we talked about it coming in, like this is why it's borderline impossible for him to win the Rookie of the Year. Like, let's say he gets 7-8 sacks. Well, if Kayvon ends up with 8-2, like he's just getting it. The momentum of being the top pick, and if the team's good, I would say it already feels like he's in the mix. And
Well,
if the Cowboys has a guy how many sacks does Sam Williams have a sack?
no.
No.
Now, what I have up on the screen right now for those of you watching are PFF's numbers. They actually have Drake with 4 sacks.
Oh yeah, they kind of have their own numbers.
They have their own, which I think, didn't him and Bosa get in on a sack and they took it away from Drake? Or I remember there was a play like that a few weeks ago. But, I think you said it. There's something to be said for when you're drafted in the second round, you're not being asked to be Kayvon or Aiden Hutchinson. So Drake Jackson's on the field in situations where he can get a sack and with other guys who get a lot of attention. And so it's a great spot for him. But that's great. You know why? Because he needs to be developed. This is part of the deal with getting a guy. As Scott said on the chat, if I were Drake, I'd be pissed at Clay Helton for playing me out of position. It cost me $10 to $15 million. I don't know if you've seen, by the way, that Clay Helton's offense is like one of the top offenses in the country at Georgia Southern. But yeah, I mean, if he were just getting ready for the NFL for the last 3 years, where would he have been drafted? I don't know, but it wasn't going to be 61.
No, sometimes though, and he's lucky because it could also lead you to, end up going in the second round. You could also end up at a shitty team. Like he's in a pretty good spot that could lead him to a lot of cash.
Totally. Yep.
No, you're right. There's no guarantee in the sport of football. Being the 17th pick or 22nd pick just guarantees you that 4-year deal. The 5th-year option, you get to work off that for your next contract. There are a lot of benefits on that. Like ultimately, once got into an argument over a specific player who's a pass rusher who is a big-time player now. If I said his name, I think we all agree he's a top 6-7 player at his position. But the thing that he doesn't have in the negotiating, when he negotiates his contract as a non-first-round pick, is that 5th-year option gets factored in. Like when quarterbacks argue over the franchise tag, like that's guaranteed money. So he's like, well, I got 20 million or 30 million. That's where the negotiations start. Where when you're a 2nd to 7th round pick and you become a stud, that number's 0.
Yeah.
Like you don't get the 5th-year option and the franchise tag. So you kind of get the double dip. You just get, well, you franchise tag me instead of the 5th-year option and the franchise tag.
Right.
So it's why hitting on players past the first round is an incredible deal. It always is. There is nothing like it. You're basically obligated from your fan base, your owner, the general manager, like you better hit on your first round picks, but you also better nail some, at minimum 30% of your picks post pick 32, because those deals are just, it's honestly why the Rams are kind of fucked, because you can't consistently give up. It's one thing to give up first round picks. Like you honestly could not have a first round pick every year and still build a very good team if you already have sweet players on your team. But like, I can't go every single year. Like I haven't had a second round pick for 3 straight years, which most people think is the best deal in the league, because a lot of times you can get first round talents at second round wages. And then let's face it, like historically, there are a ton of good players that go from pick like 60 to like 90. Right.
Also, isn't there kind of a thinking sometimes that you're getting second round talents at first round wages halfway through the first round?
Yeah. Well, John Schneider would tell you that.
Yeah, John Schneider would. Yeah.
Which is a fact too, right? Like ultimately, I think
the number of first round picks is set every year. The number of first round worthy players is not.
Like I bet Veach would tell you, listen, we really like Karlaftis. We had to use the pick. We weren't able to trade back. We would have loved to get him at 35 and not 30.
Sure.
Right.
No. Just for reference, and again, not a shot at Aiden Hutchinson at all. This year, Drake Jackson makes $1 million. Aiden Hutchinson he got 20. You got a signing bonus. So he got $24 million.
Well, I was listening to Anthony Slater with
that's
Russillo.
1/24th, John.
Well, I was listening to Slater with Russillo talking about the Draymond situation, and Russillo can't quite wrap his head around like they're really going to get rid of Draymond. And he's like, well, yeah, they kind of have to. Like they don't, he's really the only salary slot. Like they can't, of the 3 guys, they extended 2 of them. Even in theory, like if they extend Draymond, they can't keep all these guys on the team and have a $500 million payroll. And he's like, the one sneaky problem that no one talks about, and we'll see how good this guy ends up being, is James Wiseman next year makes $12 million. I think sometimes you forget, like when you're drafted really high in basketball and football, you don't make like, if you become really sweet, like Anthony Edwards, who ultimately it's pretty clear Anthony Edwards is going to be like a $30-40 million player. But even right now, he's making like 10. Why? He's not making like 1. So the gap between like Trevor Lawrence, like, yeah, it's pretty clear Trevor Lawrence probably going to get a big second deal, but it's not like Trevor Lawrence makes nothing now. If you said Aiden Hutchinson got $38 million, what was Trevor got 39? Or I mean, he was the number 1 overall pick, guaranteed 5-year deal. He doesn't make nothing. It's why, like, when ultimately Amari Cooper's and the Khalil Macks and Nick Bosa's get that second deal, they've actually already made a lot of cash, Like, ultimately,
you got to be pretty bad to make less. That's not happening.
100%. It's why the holdouts, like, yeah, Aaron Donald could hold out back-to-back years. It's like, well, he was the 11th pick. Now, he didn't make stupid money, but he still got a $16 million.
He's not relying on...
Like, you did the math for Debo. It's like, Debo's actually only made $3.5 million. Right? Amari's like, yeah, I made that. My signing bonus when I was the 4th pick in 2016 was 17.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know what, how much money you have to have in the bank to not blink an eye at what a private jet costs. But I'm pretty sure you need more than $3 million. You know what I'm saying?
Depends how far you're going. Yeah.
Well, I just mean like, you don't have to think twice about a $20,000 to $50,000 flight.
Well, think about this. When Trey Lance was drafted by the 49ers, I don't know if it'd be after you sign your contract. I think you get it within 2 weeks of after signing the contract. And I'm pretty sure he signed his contract right before training camp. He got a signing bonus of $22 million. Now, the signing bonus is part of his $34 million contract. So 22 of the 34. So when you do see
next year this year he's making whatever he's making 6 or 8 or whatever it is.
Exactly. But it's actually amortized over the cap. Like he did receive 22 of his 34 in the way of a one-time direct deposit. Not the bag. I hate that term. He did not get a bag. He's paying taxes on this money. It was wired.
Bags are now taxed.
No, they're not.
Bag tax.
The problem is, like,
unless you're in your bag, that's something else.
Yeah, you couldn't do anything with a $22 million bag, right? Because banks, you got to show proof after like 10 G's. It'd actually be pretty worthless. You couldn't even buy cars.
Yeah, where are you hiding that money?
Well, Pablo would say you bury it.